Hello, everyone. Welcome to Barca News. It is March 23rd, 2026. So, ladies and gentlemen, Inter Milan are open for a player swap, in exchange for Alessandro Bastoni. Also, Xavi Simons offering himself to Barcelona yet again. And finally, Guirassy awaiting Barcelona's move. We have a lot to discuss. So, let's begin. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the channel, Body Baseball. And as you know, I'm still out of town, away from my YouTube studio. This is why I'm doing this short live stream to bring you all Barcelona news. This is not a podcast. I won't be reading the comments again. This is just to give you the news while I'm away from home. I have left Barcelona, and don't worry, I will be uploading the two videos from the Estadio Johan Cruyff and from the Spotify Camp Nou. I'm currently in the city of London. Hello, mate, from the city of London. Apologize. That was a horrible attempt at an English accent. But I'll be here in London until Friday. And then I'll be flying out to Scotland. And then Monday, I'll be flying back home. So next Monday, I will be back in my YouTube studio. Anyways, let's dive right into the news because there's a lot to cover. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we have official confirmation from when the El Clasico match is going to be. Because if you don't know by now, when La Liga calendar is first scheduled, it's scheduled per weekend. So it's like this weekend is El Clasico. We don't know if it's a Friday. We don't know if it's a Saturday. We don't know if it's a Sunday. We don't know if it's a Monday. Obviously, it's always going to be a Sunday. It's El Clasico. But we don't have the time confirmation either until a few weeks before the match. So now we have official confirmation. And ladies and gentlemen, El Clasico, second El Clasico of La Liga, will be on May 10th, 2026 at 9 p.m. local time, which of course is prime time. Makes sense. It is the most watched match around the world. Now, this will be towards the end of La Liga, so this could be the defining moment of who will win the Spanish league, because yesterday, Real penalties won against Atletico Madrid 3-2. So it's still a 4-point difference between Barcelona and Real penalties. So, of course, if it stays like that, by the time we get to El Clasico match, after that, there's only 3 matches left. So if Barcelona win, boom, I think La Liga is pretty much over. If Real Madrid win, La Liga gets really hot, because then it would be only 1 point away from Barca with only 3 matches left to go. We'll have to wait and see, but hopefully Barcelona will be able to seal this league before even a Clasico match, or maybe right up to that point in the Clasico match could be the final step and we can win it against Real Madrid at the Spotify Camp Nou. Now, speaking of Real penalties, the reason why I call them Real penalties is because, ladies and gentlemen, get ready to be surprised. That's, of course, sarcasm, because you're not going to be surprised, because Real Madrid have the most amount of penalties in Europe's top 5 leagues. Not just in Spain, but in Europe's top 5 leagues. Real Madrid have 14 penalties so far this season. In second place, Bayern München with 11 penalties. And in third place, Barca and Dortmund with 9 penalties. The most penalties in Europe's top 5 league this season thus far. We'll see what that will look like towards the end of the season, because as we've seen week after week, Real penalties continue to get penalties. Not to mention, several months ago, I think it was last year, they became the team with the most penalties in the history of the Champions League. Not in a single season, in the history. Real penalties, ladies and gentlemen. Real penalty para Real Madrid. I don't know if you guys have seen that meme. But anyways, I am not surprised one bit. Are you? I'm pretty sure you're not either. This is like me telling you, hey guys, in the summer, the desert gets really hot. And you're like, yeah, we know, bro. Same thing with Real penalties having the most penalties in all of Europe. Now, on to the next bit of news, because, ladies and gentlemen, Hansi Flick has won the Coach of the Month for the month of March after completing a perfect month, beating Sevilla 5-2, Athletic Club Bilbao 1-0, and Rayo Vallecano 1-0 as well. Hansi Flick was going up against El Cholo Simeone, Atletico Madrid's coach, and Luis Castro, who is Levante's coach. But it's Flick who has won the votes, the most votes, and he is the Coach of the Month for the month of March. I think this is the first time he's winning it this season, if I'm not mistaken, which of course is pretty weird because he won it so many times last season, and he was also chosen the best coach of that entire season for last season. But anyways, congratulations to Flick, who to me is the best coach in the league, in La Liga by far, and one of the best in all of Europe. Now, on to the next bit of news, because Gerard Maldini has told his agent, stop listening to offers. I have no interest of leaving Barcelona. Now, Gerard Maldini has been attracting a lot of offers, especially with his improved performance. We know AC Milan have been very after the player, even during the winter transfer market, and there's still clubs knocking on the door of Gerard Maldini, and Maldini has given the clear instruction to his agent, I'm not interested in any clubs. I don't care how many clubs come knocking, and I don't care what they have to offer. Tell them I want to stay in Barca and Barcelona only. And I'm very, very glad for that, because we've seen Gerard Maldini has become one hell of a center back right next to Pau Cubarsí. Now, the other player to give his agent the same instruction, this one you might be a little bit disappointed about, but it's Ronald Araujo, because as I told you a couple of days ago, it looks like Liverpool are very interested in the guy. They're even willing to offer around 25 to 30 million euros. There's other clubs also interested in him, like Inter Milan. But of course, all of them only willing to offer 25, 30 million euros, which again, I'm all for selling Araujo, but not for that little. If they want to pay for Araujo 50, 60 million, because if we were to sign Araujo right now from the Premier, that's exactly how much they're going to want for him. So no way 25 to 30 million euros. But either way, it doesn't matter, because the Uruguayan defender has instructed his agent the same thing, that he's not interested in leaving, to tell all the other clubs knocking on the door to go kick rocks. Now, speaking of defenders, we do have to talk about the big name, which I'm sure is one of the reasons why you clicked on this video, because you saw his name in the title and his picture in the thumbnail. But we have to talk about Alessandro Bastoni, the Inter Milan center back, who is Deco's favorite option to reinforce the center back position. Of course, initially, it was thought that to be mission impossible, because Inter Milan were not looking to sell Bastoni. But now Inter Milan have changed positions. They are willing to sell Bastoni in the summer transfer market. Of course, the question is going to be how much. So Barcelona are tracking the situation of Bastoni to see if they can sign him or not. And now the newest news out of Italy is that Inter Milan would be willing to accept players plus cash, or maybe just players, in exchange of Bastoni. And that's not just for Barca, by the way. That's for any club who wants to sign Bastoni. Inter Milan are willing to hear not just cash offers, but swap deal offers as well. And while the question is, who would Inter Milan be interested in if we were to do a swap deal? Where Italian media are reporting that Inter Milan are interested in both Araujo and Jules Koundé. And to me, Araujo for Bastoni, any day of the week, take up. I will drive him myself to the airport, to the Barcelona airport, and then I will drive him myself from the Milan airport to the Inter Milan facilities. Koundé, completely different story, because if we sell Koundé, we bring in Bastoni. Okay, now we solve the center back position problem. What do we do about the right back position problem? Now we have a new problem, and now we have to figure out another signing. Now, on to the next bit of news, because guess who has offered himself to Barcelona yet again? This guy's been offering himself to Barcelona every other day. It's no other than Xavi Simons, the 22-year-old attacking midfielder, former Barcelona academy player, who joined Tottenham Hotspur until 2030 in exchange for 65 million euros. Someone who can also play on both wings, not just as an attacking midfielder. And well, now that Tottenham are facing the possibility of relegation, seems that Xavi Simons prioritizes going to Barcelona if relegation happens. So if Tottenham do get relegated, it's going to be a lot of players who want to leave. Amongst them is Xavi Simons. And his number one option is to go to Barca, either on loan or on a permanent transfer for around 40 million euros. So my question to you guys, Tottenham Hotspur get relegated, would you want Xavi Simons on the team? Yes or no? On one hand, I like Xavi Simons. He's a talented guy. He knows the Barcelona style of play. On the other hand, we already have attacking midfielders. We have Dani Olmo. We have Fermin Lopez. We have Gabi who can play in that position. I think the only way I would want to bring Xavi Simons to the club is if we offload someone else, right? Because otherwise, what are we going to do with a million attacking midfielders? But anyways, I want to hear you guys' thoughts, so let me know in the comment section. And finally, let's end today's video with the news in regards to Guirassy, the 30-year-old center forward, currently plowing his trade at Dortmund. His contract expires in 2028, but it looks like he's looking to leave during this summer transfer market, and he was someone that Barcelona were considering as a possible replacement for Robert Lewandowski. And while the newest news comes from Saudi Arabia, because Al Ittihad were preparing an offer to Guirassy so he can go to Saudi Arabia, and Saudi media outlets stating that Guirassy called him and said, well, his agent called him and said, hold on, hit the brakes. Guirassy doesn't want to hear from anyone until he knows for sure what Barcelona want to do. So in other words, for now, Guirassy is waiting for Barca before deciding on his next move. I personally don't think Barcelona are going to go for Guirassy. I think they're looking for a bigger profile center forward. But of course, my question to you is, Guirassy, yes, no, maybe? Let me know down below in the comment section. All right, that is all for this video. I'm going live in a few more moments because there's more news to cover. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment, and as always, peace, guys.